Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903.
As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Well, hello from Los Angeles, friends. Yes, I am in Gavin Newsom territory once again. It is really insanely hot here, but so far, at least my hotel still has air conditioning. That probably bothers a lot of liberals, but hey, it's okay. So I have been here in Los Angeles on set all week to film the Essential Church movie. This is an amazing documentary from Grace Community Church Productions that's going to document the fight to keep church open during the COVID pandemic. As most of you know, I was one of the lead counsel for John MacArthur and Grace Community Church during their fight to stay open, and we won an amazing victory against Gavin Newsom, against LA County and the state of California. And now church gets to be open, and it is an amazing victory. So stay tuned for when that documentary comes out sometime next year. But you can go to essentialchurchmovie.com. You can find out more about it. You can also support the project if you would like to. So I'm here in Los Angeles, but I'll be back home next week and joining you from there. But I also had an opportunity to catch up earlier today with my good friend, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt, by phone. And we wanted to talk about this very important lawsuit that he's filed against the Biden administration that is proving how big tech colluded with the Biden administration and took direction from the White House to censor Americans' viewpoints as quote unquote misinformation during not only the COVID pandemic, but possibly even more. So remember when President Trump filed his lawsuit against big tech and said, hey, they're basically acting as an agent of the United States government. They shouldn't get First Amendment protections. A bunch of liberals, of course, laughed at that, said President Trump doesn't know what he's doing, his lawyers are idiots, the same old rigmarole. But this lawsuit from Eric Schmitt and also the Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry shows currently through discovery and emails from the White House and the Biden administration and big tech back and forth, showing that they intentionally are colluding to censor American speech and have a ministry of truth for what they term as COVID disinformation. You will not want to miss this great conversation with Eric Schmitt. I'm so glad that he filed this lawsuit. Listen to this. So Eric, thank you so much for joining me today. And where are we at in this lawsuit? And obviously this is so important, but what is the goal here?
Yeah, and it's great to be with you, Jenna. So as you mentioned, we filed the lawsuit in May, and what we've been doing for the past few months really is wrangling with a lot of folks on the other side about discovery. So we've issued discovery requests, and I guess to take a step back, the lawsuit essentially alleges, well, it does allege that big government, the Biden administration, is colluding directly with the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, to censor speech, censor content, which of course, if the government were doing it by itself, would be illegal. That's what we have the First Amendment for, to protect that. But the government doesn't get to outsource that censorship to private companies, which is exactly what's happening. And so I think the worst fears have been realized. And what we've discovered through this discovery process, the documents that have been produced so far in this lawsuit, is a vast, censorship enterprise, quite frankly, and that's what we're dealing with. And so, what we've known so far, Jenna, is that we've identified so far in the discovery process at least 45 officials in the U.S. government at the federal level, mostly in agencies and including at the White House, that were having constant communication with these social media platforms to deplatform people, to take content down, which of course is in direct violation of the First Amendment. What we know so far from the first round of discovery, which I think is important to kind of separate two buckets. The first is what we've gotten so far, which is a lot of different agencies, federal agencies, the Surgeon General, for example. A lot of those folks, those communications, we got those documents last week. And what they show is, things like setting up weekly calls, censorship calls between the government and these big tech companies to take people out, to, censor content, to take things down, the direct flagging that, quite frankly, Jen Psaki said they were doing. They were kind of open and obvious about this and notorious. What they also were doing is these social media companies were changing their terms of service, in response to direction from the government. And then also you have communications, which we, put out there last week with our most recent filing, of a senior Facebook official texting the Surgeon General of the United States saying, "Hey, we heard what you had to say. We did that. What more can we do?" This is direct collusion between government and Twitter and Facebook to take these opinions down that they thought were misinformation or disinformation. And it's scary because we also found out, right, a few months ago that there was a disinformation governance board where you had the Ministry of Truth with Mary Poppins running the show. These folks are serious about this. They were hell bent on silencing, hundreds of thousands of Americans and their points of view, millions of Americans who disagree with them. This is the government of the United States, not some third world banana republic that was doing it. But the second piece, Jenna, that came out this week, so the Department of Justice was objecting to us getting documents from senior White House officials claiming executive privilege, which of course is nonsense because it wasn't even communications, internal communications. These were communications to the outside, right, to these social media companies. And the judge ruled this past week that we are entitled to that. And so we're going to get communications from Anthony Fauci. We're going to get communications from the White House press secretary. And those will be very revealing because we need to know what Anthony Fauci was communicating, and we have some sense of it. But whether it was, the ineffectiveness of masks or the disjointed policy that they had, or trying to debunk people who were raising serious scientific questions about what they were saying, you got that. And then also we're asking questions about, the 2020 election and the Hunter Biden laptop. And so what you see, I guess, in the macro here is a lot of people, a lot of senior people in the Biden administration directing these social media platforms to censor speech. And that's illegal. And that's why this lawsuit's so important.
This is mind-blowing. And as I've been following all of your tweets, and by the way, for everyone listening, if you're not following AG Eric Schmidt on Twitter, you need to be, because he puts out a lot of really specific content about this lawsuit, what you've gotten from the discovery so far. And this is incredible that this is happening in the United States of America. And one of the emails that stood out was from a senior Facebook official that sent an email to the Surgeon General stating, quote, "I know our teams met today to better understand the scope of what the White House expects from us on misinformation going forward." This is basically Facebook and these big tech companies acting as agents of the government, right? So what can be done about this once you're receiving all of this information?
We got to put a stop to it, right? Because it's still ongoing. They've been so brazen about this. You had Jen Psaki saying, and I think our lawsuit had already been filed, but Jen Psaki at the podium saying, we are working with Facebook to flag misinformation. The government doesn't get to do that, right? They don't get to tell a private company. Essentially, they're an appendage now of the federal government, because you've got those kinds of emails. You also have, an email from a senior official with somebody on YouTube flagging something and then saying, we're on it. Like this isn't just like a random email here and there. These are constant communications. These are weekly calls. This is text messages between, like I said, the Surgeon General and a senior White House or a Facebook official. This is direct collusion. I mean, they are directing these agencies. And so, a lot of people have suspected this, Jenna, for a long time, but we're actually proving the case now. And a lot of times in some of the previous lawsuits, they were filed against some of the social media companies. They're in the Northern District of California, and you never get to discovery. Well, what's different here is Missouri. We partnered with Louisiana. We have filed as states representing the people of our state. And we've got a judge now that's actually allowing us to peek under the hood, which has never happened before. And like I said, I think it's been shocking and does reveal, in fact, a censorship enterprise between the government and big tech.
Well, and so this is where so many people through the Trump administration and President Trump, of course, was calling for either a repeal or a revisiting of Section 230. And of course, big tech has said, well, no, the First Amendment doesn't apply to us because that's only government. But now, because there is so much evidence and so much proof that they're acting, as you said, as an appendage of or an agent of the government and at their direction, they shouldn't get Section 230 or protections at all, because the First Amendment now does apply to them because they're acting as the government in censorship.
That's right. And one of the things I'm most excited about, if I'm obviously running for the United States Senate, being the Senate, there needs to be congressional and Senate hearings day after day, bringing in Fauci, bringing in some of these folks to kind of amplify this and learn more, because this is not something that we should tolerate in the United States of America. And I don't even care what your political stripe is. This is scary stuff. Like, this is Orwellian stuff. And you combine that, with the FBI being weaponized against parents under the Patriot Act. I mean, it's such a political operation now at the Department of Justice. It's this administration has taken steps we've never seen before like this. And so its worst fears kind of realized. And you're right on Section 230. I mean, I was actually, been very involved with this myself, because I think if you take a step back in the 90s, what the law essentially did was to say, okay, we're not going to treat you like a publisher. We're not going to treat you like a publisher, because a publisher can be sued for, misstatements and intentional misstatements of fact and, defaming people, all those sorts of things. But what they said was, internet companies like Facebook and Twitter, we're going to set you apart because you're an open platform, right? You're a place where people can have their views expressed. And it's like a new town square. It's an online public forum. And now what Facebook has done on their own, and Twitter on their own, they're acting as a publisher. They're acting as a publisher. So that in and of itself should dislodge them from this protection they've gotten from Section 230. What makes this different is this has gone well beyond that, just related to a private company. This is the government now partnering with these companies to actually censor. And that's a new layer of, that's a problematic layer here that's been unraveled. And we're going to keep going. I mean, we're not done. We haven't seen those emails yet. We're going to get to see them now between Fauci and some of these companies, the White House press secretary and some of these companies. And we'll see. What we don't know right now, Jen, I think the big question here is, how far does this go? How up the food chain does this go? And how wide does it go? And this is the first vehicle that's been out there for us to get those important answers.
Yeah, those are great questions. And how do they define misinformation? Is this limited to just their health content and what they think should be everyone's perspective on the vaccine and COVID, or is this more widespread? And so, how big of a net do you have in terms of discovering what you're able to get in response to those types of questions?
It's pretty broad, and but I think, like I said, the three main buckets here, you've got some of the issues related to the 2020 election that they were trying to shut down when people had opposing points of view. When you had the Hunter Biden laptop story, which Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, coincidentally, right before these documents were released, Zuckerberg goes on Joe Rogan and kind of comes clean about, hey, we were directed by the FBI on the Hunter Biden laptop story. We were given a heads up on that to say, this is going to be misinformation. That was new information. And by the way, I don't think if we didn't have our lawsuit in play, Facebook or any of these companies would be so open about what actually went down. So there's still information to be found out about the suppression of that story with, the government, even afterwards with these social media companies. But clearly the biggest part of all this right now is the COVID-19, whether it was, on the vaccine issue or the mask issue. I mean, you had the teachers unions dictating to the CDC. I mean, this guidance that was really harmful for kids, forcing the masking of 5-year-olds has proven to be a terrible mistake. Loss of learning, psychological, emotional issues. In Missouri, we didn't stand for it. I sued 47 school districts in Missouri that were forcing the masking of kids and got them to back down. But it was unfair. You see now this disparity across the country of learning and test scores. It was a total disaster. And that's the direct response. And then the responsibility lays there with Anthony Fauci and the CDC and some of what they were sending out and trying to crush people who were, questioning this. And so it'll be very instructive for us to find out what exactly was that communication between Fauci and other entities on the outside to try to punish people who were raising legitimate questions.
You are so right that everyone in America should be concerned about this Ministry of Truth, this intentional misinformation, silencing, collusion campaign, regardless of what your political background or belief is. This is so important, and I'm so thankful, Eric Schmidt, that you're taking this on. And in just the last 2 minutes that I have with you here, so of course you are a candidate for the U.S. Senate from Missouri. President Trump did endorse you. I'm going to go that far to say he endorsed you in the primary when he came out and said, "I'm endorsing Eric." That was funny. I laughed at that, and that was great. But so you obviously have the endorsement moving forward. I hope that you win. So as you go into the Senate, how are you going to then take this battle there, and how can people support you?
Yeah, listen, we need proven conservative fighters, and that has been my record. I think that's why we won in a crowded primary field by a big margin, because people have seen the actions I've taken on it as Attorney General. I was the first one to challenge, the OSHA vaccine mandate. Missouri was the first state to file. We took that to the Supreme Court and we won. We've taken on big tech. We've taken on this ridiculous ESG agenda. We've taken on Joe Biden's war on American energy. We're fighting those important fights and winning. And I'm going to take that same fighting spirit to the United States Senate, because we have to hold these people accountable. I really believe that we need reinforcements in Washington to save America. The Democrats are not, they're playing for keeps right now. We're not having traditional debates about entitlement reform and things like that. They are literally 2 votes away in the Senate from adding states to the union and packing the court and federalizing elections and open borders and amnesty. They want to fundamentally change this country forever. And we got to get the right people there who are going to fight back. That's been my record. And that's what I'm going to take to the Senate. And if people want to help, would love to have their help. It's easy. You can text Schmidt, SCHMITT, which is my last name, to 30409. That's a great way to get involved and help. It's a big race. We don't take the majority back if we don't win the Show Me State here in Missouri. And I intend to do that. We're in a good spot, but we're going to work as hard as we can through November 8th to make sure we get it done.
Absolutely. So follow Eric Schmidt also on social media at Eric with a C_Schmidt. And last question for you. How concerned are you about election integrity in the midterms for actually holding the Democrats accountable and making sure that we get good, save America, America First Republicans back in the majority?
Well, it's a fundamental issue for us, right? Everything in this system of self-government relies on the integrity of our elections. And I've joked, get ready for the midterm variant with COVID, so they can try to manipulate some of these election laws again. But it's important, and it's something we have to continue to stay focused on, because, making sure that, people have to show who they are when they vote. And if you're there's a lot of measures that are very important to protect the integrity of our elections. We have to stay focused on it. We can't get distracted, because, again, people's faith in our election process is really important. It's something I'm going to continue to stay focused on as somebody who's fought those important fights in court after 2020 and beyond. So.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to having you in the United States Senate and continuing these battles. Thank you so much for really being the tip of the spear and holding big tech accountable. This is an incredibly important case. So as you get more discovery, more things, I'll be looking forward to seeing all of that on social media, holding them accountable on their own platforms, which is great, but also having you back here to talk about it. So thank you so much, Attorney General Eric Schmidt. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Jenna.
Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903. MyPillow is having their biggest sheet sale of the year. You all have helped build MyPillow into the amazing company that it is today. Now, Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO, wants to give back exclusively to you, his listeners. The Percale bed sheet set is available in a variety of colors and sizes, and they are all on sale. So, for example, the queen size is regularly priced at $89.98, but is now only $39.98 with our listener promo code Jenna, Jenna. So order now, because when they're gone, they're gone. The Percale bed sheets are breathable and have a cool and crisp feel. These come with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so don't miss out on this incredible offer. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. You can call 1-800-564-8475 and use the promo code Jenna, or go to mypillow.com/Jenna. You can click on the radio listeners square and use the promo code Jenna. That's Jenna. Thank you so much to all of Mike Lindell's listeners and listeners of this podcast for making sure to support MyPillow and using our exclusive listener promo code Jenna. That's Jenna.